You have found Authentic Business Adventures, the business program that brings you the struggles, stories, and triumphant successes of business owners across the land. We are coming to you from the Sun Prairie Community Radio Studios, underwritten by Bank of Sun Prairie. My name is James Kateman, business coach at Draw In Customers Business Coaching and author of the Bold Business Book. Today we are welcoming / preparing to learn from Christine Ameigh of Slide Food Cart, Slide Chips, and Beyond Catering. That is Beyond Catering, the name, not just like Beyond Catering. So how's it going today, Christine?
Great. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. I'm excited because I love food carts.
Yeah, me too.
I was with a buddy a couple of years ago, and we were in Austin. And it's just food cart paradise there.
Yeah, they have a really hopping scene. I've never been there. That's like there. I want to go there, and I want to go to Seattle. Has another really great
nice. I haven't been there.
Food cart scene. Yeah.
So Austin, it was interesting because part of me was like, this is magical, and the other part was like, there's no way this could fly in Wisconsin.
Yes. Well.
The reason here's why I say that, because from a zoning point of view, I think we could make it happen, but they had like one outlet on this wooden post, and on that same wooden post they had a faucet, and they had every food truck was plugged into this thing like Christmas Vacation, right? Yeah. And then they had the faucet that was leaking with all their hoses going. Oh, that's safe. And I remember there was like a surge protector thing on the ground that was in water, like it was not like inches of water, just like there's a puddle, and I'm like, there's no way that's safe, right?
Yeah,
so I'm like, in Wisconsin, from a zoning point of view, there'd be some inspector person be like, yeah, that's probably not a good idea to have your electricity hanging around in water.
Yeah, the fire department comes around a lot.
Yeah, but in Texas...
they're like, whatever.
Let her fly.
I think it also depends on the part of Wisconsin. They're very serious in Madison about that and the safety, and, they have the fire inspectors out. And
right.
I've vended in other parts of Wisconsin, and they're like, you should have your fryer under the tent. And I was like... I don't think I should. I feel like that's going to start my tent on fire.
Right.
Like the fire department would definitely say no to that in Madison.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Interesting. Well, that's good. Keep you from burning stuff down, so that's always a good thing. So tell me, how long have you had Slide Food Cart?
I started in April of 2012.
Okay.
So 6 years.
Dang.
I didn't start with the cart. I started with the tent, and I did some pop-up events with the tent.
Sure.
And then my cart was ready in August of 2012, and that's when I started taking it out.
So now I work with some food cart people, and they're getting a cart is a big deal. I just assumed it was not. Like you just buy a used car, but that's a big deal.
It is a big deal. It's a huge investment, and it can be any level of investment from $4,000 to $30,000.
Wow.
And it depends on how old it is and the equipment you want in it and what you want it to look like. And there's so many different things to consider when you're going to buy one.
So did you order yours custom or did you buy a used one?
I had no idea what I was doing.
Okay. Most business owners don't when they start out.
Like, I don't know what I'm doing. A lot of the carts in Madison were like these little wooden houses. That's what they looked like when I started.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I don't know. I don't think I want the little wooden house looked. I had lived out in California and the big trucks with the wraps, and they were so cool.
Oh, sure.
And so I found a guy just north of Green Bay.
Okay.
And he built snowmobile trailers.
All right.
And I asked him if he could make it like a food cart for me. And he was like, well, I don't know what that means. And I sent him what the health department said from Madison.
Sure.
And he built my food cart without the equipment. So he did like the plumbing and the electricity, but then everything else I had to put in it.
Gotcha.
I probably wouldn't do that again. Okay. It definitely was a snowmobile trailer. It was fiberglass, so it was really light.
Oh.
So when I'm driving down the road, it would like bounce because it was so light, and I'd watch and be like, oh no, the weight is definitely one thing, and then it just wasn't built for like the moisture of a steam table.
Oh, sure.
Or like any cooking equipment in there.
Okay.
So now there's a couple of people who have come on the scene since I got my first cart that actually build carts to be food carts.
Okay.
Not just like I had a snowmobile trailer built to become a food cart. So that's what I mean when I say you could get a custom cart for $30,000 built to your specifications inside and out with the design and the menu and all the equipment inside that you would need.
Okay. So are you still using that same cart?
Nope. I'm not. I actually just sold it, and I bought a new one.
Okay.
New used, but still new.
Sure.
2 years old.
Okay.
But I sold it to someone else for a few $1,000s.
Sure.
And they're gutting it, and I actually went to see it, and they're redoing the whole thing because the shell is perfect. Like, it's a great cart, but it was just the stuff inside needed some work.
Gotcha.
And
okay.
I'm not the person to do that kind of work.
Sure.
I just don't have the time for
sure.
it. So I'm really excited to see what it looks like when they're done renovating it. Yeah.
So what are some things that you need on a food cart from all perspectives, the health and just the actual usage of it?
The most important thing is hand washing sink, I think. I feel like that's the most important thing in general in food production is to wash your hands.
That's the thing, yeah.
That's definitely a thing. My hands are like lizard scales because I wash them so frequently this time of year.
So does that mean multiple sinks?
You only need to have the one hand sink.
Okay. Or it's dishes where you need the 3.
Yeah, if you want to do dishes on the cart, you need a 3-compartment sink, but most people don't do that because of the size restriction in Madison to be downtown. And
what is the size?
56 square feet. So 7 feet by 8 feet.
Holy cow.
Yeah, it's tiny. It's tiny. And that was the one benefit of the fiberglass cart is like it wasn't very thick. It was super thin. So I could fit a lot in it and I had a lot of space to move around. But you go in some of these food carts and they can stand sideways and the other person can stand this way and they're like right next to each other and there's like no moving. Yeah. So it's interesting.
Is that measured from the exterior?
Yes.
Or is that like the whole footprint, wheels, even if the wheels stick out or anything? Not the wheels.
The wheels can stick out and the tongue can stick out.
Okay.
So there is like a maximum, I think it's 12 feet and 8 feet. So I think 12 by 8 with the tongue and the wheels.
So you can have propane tanks outside. Or
yeah,
whatever,
exactly.
Like that. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was when I was starting the food cart. That really threw me off, and I was like, how do you do that?
You can touch the front and the back of the trailer
yeah, exactly.
by not moving?
Well, in some of the carts, if they're not tall enough, I know one of the guys, like when he hires people, it says in the job description must be shorter than 6'2" because otherwise you can't stand up in his cart.
Oh, interesting. All right.
So there's all those things to consider.
Wow.
That you would. It's not just like a used car.
Sure, right. Fair.
Things like that.
Sure.
Yeah.
What else do you have to deal with?
I mean, really windows and then ventilation. So depending on the equipment you have, you can either have a fan or you have to have a whole hood system.
Okay.
And then you have to have the fire extinguisher if you have the hood system, you have to have like the
automatic fire suppression stuff. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. But the fire extinguisher is important. I've known since I've started 2 different food carts that have caught on fire.
Oh. Just grease splatters.
One of them, he was driving down the road.
Oh.
Okay. And someone like honked and was like, "Your cart is smoking," and he pulled over and someone had left the flat top on.
Oh no.
And I don't know, the pressure from the movement, the whole back wall went on fire. It wasn't fixable. It was irreparable. So he luckily had insurance because we're required to. I mean, I could see people trying to get around that, right?
Sure.
And then the other one was they were working on the cart on the north side during a dinner event. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden there was a fire and they didn't have a fire extinguisher.
Oh.
And they went to like 2 different carts. And luckily
running around.
Yeah, luckily they had other carts there.
Sure.
So that all of a sudden the streets blocked off with the fire department and and they were able to repair theirs.
All right.
But yeah, I think that one was grease.
Dang.
I think that one was grease.
All right.
Yeah.
So. It's bound to happen sooner or later, I suppose. Volume, whatever.
Right. So yeah. So I think those are the most important things. You have to the water for the hand sink, and then there's like a wastewater tank that you have to dispose of the wastewater properly from. Okay. Other than that,
is that different than just sending it down the drain, or what do you have to do?
Well, yeah, but you have to put it down like a mop sink because there's special. That's like special. If there's chemicals in it, like the hand soap that goes.
Sure.
I don't really. It's just the rule.
Okay.
I can't really explain why.
All right. All right. So you have to carry a tank of water on there so you have fresh water.
Yeah, like mine is built in, so I put the hose in the side of the cart every day.
Gotcha.
And then there's a water heater, so you do have to heat the water.
All right.
And then.
To the point that it's not freezing, or to the point that it's actually warm when it comes out?
It's supposed to be 110 degrees, I believe.
Oh, so okay.
So pretty hot.
Sure.
Yeah. And then the wastewater tank is separate, like removable, and you put it under the cart, and there's like a little hose coming out, and it goes into that tank, and then you take that back to your kitchen with you.
Wow. You have to carry that whole tank?
Yeah.
That's going to be pretty heavy.
I mean, yeah, it depends on how long the event is. It's like I got 2 wheels and a handle. So.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're not just picking out like a grilled cheese sandwich
no,
or something.
No, right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But other than that, as far as requirements, I feel like that's it. It has to be washable on the inside, like washable walls and ceilings, so you can wipe things down easily.
Okay. Doesn't seem like a terribly bad rule.
No, right? Yeah. I get marinara sauce on my walls all the time from the meatballs. They just goes, so I get it. It makes sense. Otherwise, for rules, I feel like that's kind of it.
All right.
It's not too complicated, really. If you have experience in the food business at all, you kind of know what your needs are for production. And
are there challenges just because your cart is outside? So you have to deal with freezing and super hot in the sun?
Oh, it's hot.
Okay.
Yeah.
In a 56 square foot anything, it's got to be warm.
It doesn't even matter. Like, that's just know that you will be in the elements on a 90-degree sunny day. Even with 2 windows and a screen door. Because you have to have screens, right? You don't want the bugs to... You have to minimize exposure to the bugs.
Yep.
It still is hot. We put a fan in there. We YouTubed some videos about, like, air conditioning with the fan, using ice and, like, PVC pipes.
Oh, my buddies and I made one.
And I don't know. Mine did not work, or I feel like it didn't work. I don't know.
Well, ours worked, but it was it was outside. We didn't try it in a food cart.
Yeah. So I guess, I don't know. It just was like too much going on in the cart, I think.
Sure.
So it's just hot, and we learned to live with that, and people wear tank tops,
Sure. All right.
They get out of the cart when there aren't customers around, cool down,
Okay.
We do our best to make sure, and also, like, I send text message reminders if I'm not there, like, drink water.
Oh, sure.
Like,
okay.
It's super easy to forget to drink water, especially when you're busy and you're like, my water's right there, but I've got this customer, and I'm like, no, take a drink.
Sure.
It's like the basic reminder.
Build little gerbil feeders in there or something.
Yeah, exactly. So they can just go. Yeah.
Funny.
So yeah, it gets hot, cold in the winter. I did it my first 2 years. It's really hard to maintain that hand sink.
Oh, at 110, I bet.
Well, in the cold weather. Yeah, exactly. But the pipes will freeze. And they do have like a food safe RV antifreeze that you can use.
Okay.
Even though when it gets so cold, like that doesn't even work. So I stopped going out in the winters. I found it wasn't worth it at this point.
And then
I have a part-time job that I do instead of running the cart in the winter.
All right. And then the wastewater thing, is that heated so it can tolerate winter?
No, it would be frozen.
Okay.
Like, and then you bring it into the kitchen and turn it upside down and wait till it melts.
And just wait 8 hours until it's empty.
Yeah,
holy cow.
Exactly,
all right.
Yeah. So definitely Wisconsin is challenging owning a food business here.
Sure.
Yeah.
Then I imagine just you're hauling this down the road, so it has to be durable enough to handle all the bumps and shocks, and wherever you put your stuff has to be able to tolerate corners.
My first experience was that my first crazy experience was the thing that was holding on my propane tanks bent, and I didn't know it.
Oh, no.
And the propane tank flew off of my food cart while I was going down Stoughton Road at like 60 miles an hour.
All right.
Luckily, I was in the far right lane, and it like must have went in the grass.
All right. Did you hear something, or was there just a huge, massive explosion? Or anything?
No, no, it didn't explode. No, I actually don't think I realized it until I got back.
Okay.
I was like, that is so lucky. It could have smashed into someone's car and killed somebody.
Sure.
Like, that is so scary.
Yeah.
So
you got back, right? You're like, oh, I got to replace my propane tanks. And wait, we're missing one.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, as soon as I got out, I looked and I was like, oh, where did that go?
Not cool. All right.
Yeah. So that won't happen again.
Sure. You make sure.
I've learned my lesson.
The finest in bungee cord stuff.
Yeah, right. Exactly. It was like a metal thing that had like a bracket on it. It felt like it should have kept it secure. I don't know.
Weird. So you also have to have a generator, I imagine?
Yep. You have a generator, and the city requires it to be below a certain decibel, which is great.
Okay.
Because I have had the experience of working next to a food cart that wasn't below that decibel, and it is terrible.
Oh, I bet,
You can't even hear your own customers because it's so loud.
Yep.
So it's supposed to be below like 60 decibels, I think. So those can get expensive depending on how much electricity you need.
Sure.
I like propane. Like propane's the easiest way to go to work your units or whatever.
Oh, the heat stoves or whatever you got? Okay.
Yeah, steam table, the water heater.
Okay.
But you still need electricity. Propane can't run a refrigerator. So.
Right. Okay.
So the generator, if you're downtown Madison, they do have electricity that you can buy.
Oh, nice.
And plug in.
Okay. Is it millions of dollars or is it practical?
No, it's pretty practical. It's cheaper than using the generator, paying for the gas and then the oil change. So, but we're not just downtown; we're everywhere now. So you still have to have the generator. I pitched to several different people at the city and at MG&E that they should put solar panels and have all the food carts and make Madison like the first city to have all the food businesses downtown working off of solar panels. So every time I meet someone, I'm like, hey, we should have solar panels for the food carts. Hey, we should have.
You heard it here, right?
Like, hey, guys, if you're listening, say that to the city.
Sure.
We have the lakes and plenty of sunlight. It just seems silly that we're using all this electricity when maybe we could find a place to put some solar panels.
Right.
We don't use that much electricity.
The food carts don't?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, the outlets downtown are maxed out at 20 amps.
Okay.
So
it's normal or a step above a normal household, I imagine.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
15,
I think
whatever.
so. Yeah.
Sure. Mm-hmm. So that's not so bad.
No.
Huh. And I imagine you got lights and just basic stuff that you're running, right? It's not.
Yeah. Like I said, some of the carts are different. I've got the refrigerator. My water pump is electric.
Okay.
Couple different things.
Sure.
Lights, a fan.
Okay.
But it's nothing.
That's all we want is fans.
Yeah, or a space heater in the winter, and that kind of can suck the
Sure.
electricity.
Okay.
But
just leave your fryer on.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah, exactly.
We just need more customers to hustle here. So, what were you doing before you started the food cart?
Immediately before, I was an assistant store manager for Target for 5.5 years.
Oh, wow.
But I was still definitely involved in food. Like, I knew since high school I wanted to have a food business. I always thought it was a restaurant.
Really?
Oh, I used to talk to my friend all the time. We talked about opening a restaurant all the time in high school.
Sliders restaurant or?
No, that
anything.
Was, anything. We talked anything that we could, we had all the ideas then.
Sure.
But so then I worked in the food industry while I was through college, and then went to Target and still was in the food. Like, I was in charge. The last couple years I was in charge of when they did the produce transition. So then they went from just like makeup and, bedding and all that stuff. And then they got in the mini grocery section with the bananas and everything.
Yeah.
That was kind of my area. That's when I was living in California. And at that time, I was even sent out to a couple of Arizona stores to help them with their produce transitions.
Okay.
So that was a lot of fun, but I was still in food because I love food.
Nice.
So even though I wasn't necessarily cooking for a living, I was still involved in food, and I learned a lot.
Right.
Because it's definitely interesting.
Well, I bet.
You get to learn from the ground up about a food business, and how it's starting. And how to store the bananas and.
Well, I imagine I'm always amazed, with bananas specifically, right?
Yeah.
These bananas traveled halfway across the world, right? They've been stored. 50 people have handled them. They've been in trucks.
Yep.
And they look beautiful. I take them from the store to my house, and they have all these black marks on them. Were they packed in cotton? What did they do?
And the biggest thing that was always the fear is when you're opening the banana box to stock the table, watch out, because there's spiders sometimes that come from South America. And that was always the biggest fear. And I don't know if it was true, but that was the rumor across the board when we were doing our training.
Was gentle.
Watch out for the big spiders.
All right.
Yeah, I don't know.
Interesting.
Yeah, it has a lot to do with their temperature control too. They have to be stored at a specific temperature, not in refrigeration and not in room temperature. Their optimal temperature, I think, is 48 to 52 degrees.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so there was a room at Target that we stored the bananas in called the banana room.
The banana room.
Other things were stored in there as well, but specifically it was for the bananas.
So keep them at that optimal temperature.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
So
That's
things,
so clever.
And we had to cover the potatoes at night.
Okay.
Because the fluorescent light is what changes the potatoes to green.
Really?
And so you have to minimize their time being exposed to the fluorescent light.
Okay.
So when they're green, it's because they weren't covered up overnight.
Really?
So we had potato blankets.
Holy cow.
We tucked the potatoes in it.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Food is just one of those, food business, I should say.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things where I'm just mesmerized because on top of any other business where you have whatever inventory and you got to sell it and life goes on, now you add in things like expiration dates and, this seasonality. And just, there's a strike in Guatemala, so all of a sudden we're not able to get whatever.
Yeah. And from the distributors, they can give you that information too. Like I get a lot of my produce from Golden Produce.
Okay.
And I'll be like, what berries are good right now? And they'll check which berries are the best berries, or they'll be like, well, something happened here and there was a flood here, and so the strawberries are all terrible or whatever. Dang. Maybe strawberries are a bad example.
Sure.
But they can give you all the information. We used to get those updates at Target too. Like, here's a message. Oh, you're not getting this week.
Oh, really?
Because of this. Yeah.
It's just a lot of moving parts.
It is. The logistics and the processes behind it, and the communication that has to happen so people know, like in case people care, right?
Right.
Like the person who came to the grocery store for the tomatoes and we don't have any tomatoes,
right,
doesn't really care why. Maybe they do, or
they
maybe
don't.
it's interesting,
they
but
don't.
they probably
I can tell you,
don't.
like if I'm going to the store to pick up tomatoes,
yeah,
I only care if you have them. If you don't have them,
I don't need the story behind them, right? Yeah.
Because what am I supposed to tell? Like, am I going to tell my family we're going to have BLTs tonight? But no,
tomato. Yeah.
No, there's this blah 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 thing.
Right.
Like, no, Dad, you had one job. Where are the
you
tomatoes?
Failed.
You failed as a dad. So, how do you like being a food cart owner?
I love it. I mean, I can hesitate in saying that it's challenging.
Sure.
I wouldn't do anything different than what I have done.
Okay.
But I definitely will say it's challenging. And when I started in 2012, there were 52 food carts in Madison. And now there's over 100.
Yeah.
So in 6 years since I've been in business, it's doubled.
All right. They all watched you and they're like, we gotta do this.
Exactly.
Christine's got this down.
The let's eat out thing that we can talk about. My husband always says, well, you made it look so attractive to own a food cart.
Sure.
By having all these different opportunities in Madison that you like did this to yourself, you know? And I'm like, for me, it's more now about like the private events. I think I said we have 13 weddings booked with our food cart for this year alone.
Do you really?
Yeah. And graduation parties, I have 5 of those. And corporate events, I already have 3 booked with one company for this year, actually. I think I have 7 booked total already.
That's awesome.
So really, for me, that's what it's about, because it's guaranteed money. So it's not like I'm going out on the square at lunchtime.
Just hoping?
I'm like, is there going to be a conference today at Monona Terrace? Is it going to rain? Is it going to be windy? Because downtown it gets so windy between those 2 lakes. My cart started rolling away once because I forgot to put the
wheel chocks on
because it was so windy, because it's crazy. So it's definitely one day at lunch downtown you can serve 30 people and one day you can serve 70 people. And it's really hard to know what the day is going to be. So when you have an event like a wedding and they're like, I have 150 guests.
Boom.
Yeah, no problem.
Sure.
So I'm all about like those. And they're more fun because the brides and grooms and like the, corporate people, they get to make their own menu. And we've had a lot of fun with creating new menu items that people have specifically requested.
Sure.
Like we did an India wedding 2 years ago. And so we had like a chicken tikka masala slider. And I learned to make a different kind of rice that I've never made before. And we made mango lassi, a smoothie, fruit smoothie beverage that has coconut juice in it. And
nice.
Yeah. So that's the fun part, is also being creative with the couples or the businesses.
Nice. That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
So do people typically, do they call you or do they go to your website, or how do they book something with you?
I mean, people do call. I think website is the easiest, or email.
What is your website?
I'm at slidewisco.com.
Slidewisco, so SLIDEWISCO.com. All right. Yay, me, I can spell.
And so people do call, but I will say that during the day, 90% of the time my hands are busy doing something. And so a lot of times I won't answer a call.
Sure.
And I don't have good service in my kitchen.
Right.
So it's easier to send an email to me because I can answer it at 10 p.m. when I'm about to go to bed, and I'm like sitting there and I'm like, I can answer these 4 emails from today. I can't call you back at 10 p.m. probably.
Right. Not likely.
Maybe I shouldn't.
What is your email address?
slidersandbeyond@gmail.
Slidersandbeyond@gmail.com. Easy enough. All right.
Yeah.
Simple. So do you have employees?
I do. I have 2 that are full-time, well, pretty close to full-time.
Okay.
Year-round for the potato chip business, primarily.
Okay. Sure.
Hopefully, always.
All right.
And then in the summertime, I'll have probably 2 more full-time employees and then a lot of part-time employees and friends that help me out with like big events.
Okay.
So I have a couple of good friends who are teachers, or like one's a social worker in the Milwaukee
nice.
School District.
Sure.
And so she doesn't work during the summer.
Mm-hmm.
And so she'll come and help me out with all the events. So then she has extra cash in the summer, and I have an extra, like,
very cool,
very smart employee. You know?
Right?
Yeah. So so I'd say like on peak days, I probably have like 12 people working for me at a time at like a festival or a big event. But
sure.
Other days it's 2 or 3.
Sure. So do you have 2 food cards?
No, what I did have 2 for a little while.
You did? Okay.
Yeah, but then that whole market saturation thing happened with 100 food carts in Madison.
Gotcha.
And I got the second cart to do festivals, and then I realized the tent setup is easier and better.
Oh.
Because I can produce more in a tent. Because the cart is so small.
Because you have more room.
And more room. So I could have 4 people working in the tent. I could have 6 people working in the tent. And in the food cart, I can only have 2 people.
Okay. So you can hustle, get people the food that they want.
Yeah, it's about the volume.
Okay.
Yeah.
So everybody's happier.
Yeah, exactly.
All
and doing the tent setup, I feel like there's less things to break. I mentioned the propane tank flying off. Well, I've had like 5 different flat tires on the food cart, you know.
Oh, no. It's a bad day.
It's always an interesting thing. You know,
Sure.
One was on the Beltline, one was on the highway, one of the highways, I don't know which one, on the way to Sun Prairie. And
sure.
So I feel like there's less stress actually by doing the tent setup. And I always tell people if they're thinking about starting it, I'm like, why don't you do some pop-ups with the tent first?
Sure.
To see how feasible it is and how things go for you. Because that's how I started.
Yeah.
And it just is like less of an investment also.
So the idea was just essentially proving the model. So once you start the tent thing, people like the food, you're getting stuff booked, and like, okay, now we can justify investing in a cart.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. And yeah, I guess that's it. Yeah, justify the model. I mean, I tested recipes with my family and friends. I had like a big party at my house.
Sure.
Before I even did my first event.
Okay.
They helped me name some of the sandwiches and like, you know, taste tested them and gave me feedback.
Sure. Did any of them say, hey, this is disgusting, keep this off your menu? Or were they...
I mean, no.
Like, were they honest in their feedback, I guess?
Yeah.
Okay.
I had him fill out papers.
Gotcha, okay.
Anonymous papers.
Gotcha, okay.
Yeah, I did, like, questionnaires. I was pretty strategic about it.
Okay, so it wasn't, how can we make Christine cry?
No. It was like, this, you know, this is what I liked or this is what I didn't like.
Sure.
And,
okay.
And that's important because, I mean, everyone has different tastes.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
that's another moving part, right?
Yeah, yeah.
People on this side of the world like this, but we bring it to Madison, and oh my gosh, what is this?
What is that thing? Yeah, it definitely is one of the moving parts, and I think that I try and be flexible with my flavors too because I want to appeal to as many people as possible.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I also am not gonna like cater to someone because the barbecue sauce was too spicy.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
That's one person out of thousands.
Right. And I'm like, okay, well, yeah, it is kind of spicy, you know.
Sure.
Like, I don't like oil and vinegar coleslaw. Well, that's my coleslaw.
Sure.
So you can go somewhere else and get the creamy coleslaw. It's fine. It's my grandma's recipe, you know, and that's...
Sure.
I'm not going to make creamy coleslaw because that's what you want.
Right.
No offense. Do you know what I mean? But are you going into the restaurant and saying that?
Right. Totally understand.
You know?
Yeah. Some people probably are.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Didn't you cater this to me specifically?
Yeah. You didn't make your menu just for me.
Who knew there's other people?
So that's always interesting too.
Sure.
But like being flexible in what do kids like to eat? Because if we're doing events at schools, what are the kids going to order?
Sure.
You know, so it's just also thinking about that for sales wise. Like, are you going to be less busy because someone else has more food for children at certain events? Or if you don't want to go that way, then that's fine. You know, you don't have to serve children, but then don't go to the school. Or if you do, don't complain because your sales weren't as good as someone else.
Right.
You know.
That's fair. I have a 4-year-old son, and the first thing we look at when my wife and I, when we go out, right? It's like, where's the chicken nuggets or the mac and cheese so we can appease him?
Yeah.
And then we can get whatever we want so we don't have a whining kid while we're trying to enjoy our food.
Yeah.
Because it's a priority thing.
It's got to be your priority. Or what are you going to do? Bring the food with you? Like, isn't that half the point so that you don't have to?
Yep. Yeah.
I get it if there's an allergy, then that makes a whole different,
Sure.
thing. Because we're also all in shared kitchens. So I have a shared commercial kitchen space, and there's like 10 businesses in there.
Mm-hmm.
So even though the potato chips that I make are the only thing fried in that fryer, there's a guy across the room that makes bread. So there's no way I could be certified gluten-free.
Sure.
Because his flour's in the air.
Yep.
So we do the best we can. And it's like, okay, well, if you have a nut allergy, do you have nuts? Well, I don't have nuts, but, there's a bakery in my kitchen that does have nuts. So if there's, obviously we do all of our dishes and everything, but I don't understand the level of allergies. And if it's in the same space, that I would rather err on the side of caution and say, let's just don't do that.
Right.
Yeah. So that's always that's been something interesting to learn when someone called me I have a nut allergy, and I'm like, how should I answer this question?
Sure.
And I was like, I don't feel like you should risk it.
Right.
It's just not, unless you know yourself and okay, a little bit is okay.
Right, from a sensitivity point of view.
Yeah, my husband can eat 2 shrimp and be fine. Okay. But on the 3rd shrimp, he feels his throat start to feel funny.
Oh, gotcha. All right.
And so, he knows that's his level.
All right.
So, but I feel like it's not, maybe, I don't know if that's the same with peanut allergies. I'm not super familiar with it.
No, I've heard of people that you couldn't shake hands with them because of you would have had a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
Yeah,
on
exactly.
the same day.
Exactly.
That was enough to trigger it, which seems bizarre to me.
Right.
And
but I don't know if I'd like you to keep living. So if that's what
right.
the rule is, then we'll do that.
Yeah. So from a practical standpoint, it'd be very difficult to say that you offer allergy-free food or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
And still make money, because that's the one person out of 5 million that has this issue.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Right. So someone who has their own restaurant space and then has a food cart and can minimize those, cross contaminants, then that's fine. But it's definitely always the different things you have to think about in the food business.
Sure. So let's talk about your potato chips, because those are phenomenal. I'm curious about them, right? How did you go about making them, and then how did you go about selling them?
Well, so my dad used to work in transport refrigeration sales. So semis refrigeration units.
Sure, the Thermo Kings.
Yeah, well, so he was with Thermo King for a long time, and then he moved to Carrier. Okay. So when he was working for Carrier and I was starting the food cart, I said, I don't want to have fryer oil on the cart. It's going to be too messy. It's too hard to clean up. But I want to have a good homemade side. Mm-hmm. So what could my side be? And I'm like, well, I could do the coleslaw that I pulled out on the pulled pork sandwich, or I could cut up fruit. And my dad's like, well, I know this potato farmer in central Wisconsin who Frito-Lay contracts.
Okay.
It's a special variety of potato. And I'm like, all right, give me some potatoes. We'll make some chips. So he came back with 12 potatoes, and we sliced them up with a mandolin, and we fried them once. And I was like, I don't know. I hear good French fries, they fry them twice. So we fried them a second time, and it was the jackpot. It was great. I started with one fryer. I was at a kitchen in Sun Prairie. My friend had a kitchen here, and that's where I first started working. And so that became the side for my food cart. So my dad, I think, would go up to this farm and get me just a couple cases of potatoes at a time. They don't usually do cases of potatoes.
Okay.
Because they put 40,000 pounds of potatoes on a truck for Frito-Lay versus 100 pounds,
Sure. Fill up my wagon.
Yeah, exactly. My wheelbarrow. And so, but then somehow they ran out of potatoes because they harvest here in Wisconsin in August, or July and August. And then by May or June, they're out of potatoes. So they cold store them in proper temperature for that long, but by May or June, then they don't have them anymore. So then it was where am I going to get these potatoes? And I tried every potato in the grocery store, and I tried soaking them in vinegar and soaking them in lemon water and soaking just anything I could, because it has to be a certain starch level. And that's the reason the potato chips can be potato chips and stay crunchy and not turn brown.
Interesting. Okay.
And so, but I could not find another potato that worked. So finally I talked to my friend who worked for a distribution company, and he was able to find me some chip potatoes from North Dakota.
Okay.
I think North Dakota. And so I started getting those shipped in, and that was easy because they were delivered to me and they were by the caseload.
Sure.
But they were expensive. Like for potatoes, they were really expensive. And so I'm still doing this chip business like solely for my food cart and catering.
Sure.
I wasn't packaging at that time.
Okay.
So then I started Googling and I was like, how can I find a farmer in Wisconsin? There's like 1 million potato farms in Wisconsin. There's got to be one that's going to get me chip potatoes.
Yep.
So I came across this farm in Hancock, Wisconsin, and I sent like an inquiry through their page, and I was like, hi, I'm a very small potato chip business in Madison.
Sure.
I'm wondering if you'll sell me potatoes. And the guy I did a follow-up call like 2 days later, and he was so excited, and he's like, yeah, I'll bring you some potatoes. And so he lived in Wanakee, so he would personally deliver me cases of potatoes from the farm.
Nice.
Well, then I decided I wanted to start packaging the potatoes.
Sure.
And so I hit up Metcalf's over at Hilldale, and Jim, the manager there, was like so excited and so like ready to have them as my first store and help me do my launch, and they were going to put me on ad, and I was so excited. But then it was like, how many potatoes can Tim bring me from Heartland in the back of his, Honda Pilot at a time?
Sure.
What was reasonable. So I got into a few more stores, and then the big thing was loading the potatoes on the back of a truck, just like Frito-Lay does. So I found a truck, and I have like a 16-foot box truck.
Do you really?
So I drive my box truck up to the farm
in
Hancock, Wisconsin. It doesn't go faster than 65 miles an hour.
All right.
So it takes me like 2 hours to get there, and I have to go through the truck wash in Portage there. So I go through, and they hose out the back of the truck with their power washers and everything. And then I go, and they've got this conveyor belt that loads the potatoes into the back of the truck, like directly into the truck. So then we have like a shovel, and we shovel them off the back of the truck and put them in milk crates and wash them.
Okay.
And we're still slicing with a mandolin.
Tell me what a mandolin is.
It's basically this long rectangle silver thing with a blade on it.
Okay.
And so you take the potato and you run it back and forth and back and forth and back and forth over this blade with your hand.
Holy cow. So it's not even like a egg slicer where it actually slices the whole thing.
No, we've tried a couple different pieces of equipment that maybe aren't meant for potatoes, but just meant for slicing. And we're more efficient. Tough. We're more efficient and faster. And we're more consistent with the slice thickness, because that's also really important.
Sure.
By using the mandolin. I think as far as like next level purchasing, I would look at getting a potato chip slicer. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm fine with the fryers. I'm fine with the bags. Like, all of that is fine. But I think the slicing really is the next step to like, increase production.
Sure.
It's hard, though, because you have to buy the equipment directly from China, and it's several $1,000s, and it's hard to communicate. And so it's like I'm nervous because my chips are a little thicker, too, and it's hard to understand if you can adjust the thickness on the slicing machine.
Sure.
So we're still doing it. 23 grocery stores, 6 restaurants later with the mandolin. And I should say I have, like, one guy who works for me full-time. His name is Tony, who does all the slicing and all the
potato slicer guy.
Yeah.
Nice.
He does like, stretches every day.
I can't understand these Chinese people on the phone. I'll have him call back.
He's like, but what's going to happen to my job? And I'm like, well, I mean, you'll still have to fry. You're not losing your job. I'm not turning into like a big factory.
Sure, just robots, pump them out.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
Yeah. So I guess that's kind of the evolution.
Was it tough to get into the stores?
It depends on the store. Definitely. Okay. Like I said, Jim at Metcalf's was just amazing, right away. He was ready to meet me and love the product and did whatever he could, and he still does, and I'm in all 3 Metcalf stores. Okay. Some of the other stores have been more challenging to get in, but I think that you just, someone told me you have to be a salesperson, and I'm not really a salesperson, so that's kind of been a struggle for me to go back and to go back and to go back, but it's worked.
Perhaps you didn't try these chips.
Right, exactly. And I'm like, but the potatoes are from Wisconsin, like you guys, so I've definitely gotten better at being more persistent, because in order to sell my product, I have to be, and I believe in my product, so I think that.
So you have, let me just see what we got here. We got, for the people listening, they can also taste these, right? So we have Wisconsin cheddar and jalapeno, Gourmet potato chips with sea salt. That must just be essentially a plain kind of.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay, and then we got sea salt and malt vinegar. What is malt vinegar?
It's like the vinegar that the Europeans put on their fish, so it's it's like a malty flavor.
Nice.
That one's my favorite, I think.
You can smell it through the bag. It smells good.
Can you? Yeah.
And then, or I smell something that smells good. Curry garlic.
Yeah, so that's kind of our unique flavor. We have a sauce that we make that's a curry garlic sauce. So I was like trying to translate that sauce into the chip, and I don't think it translates it, but it's different and it's good.
Okay, well, as long as it's good, right?
Yeah.
And then you also have barbecue.
Yep, spicy barbecue.
Spicy barbecue, okay.
We smoke our own Serrano peppers for that one, and we use a different blend of spices.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I tried, like, the jalapeno cheddar. We dehydrated, like, 100 pounds of local jalapenos to make the jalapenos. You can buy jalapeno powder online, but I was like, these farmers are growing hundreds of pounds of jalapenos. Let me just do this. It's easy.
Sure. Just don't rub your eyes for the next week, right?
Right. Yeah, there's definitely some hand when I'm putting the powder on the chips after I fried them, like when I'm shaking, I actually wear like a mask.
Oh.
Because if you inhale the jalapeno, like when you're shaking it onto the chips, I will walk away and walk outside and sneeze and cry for like 10 minutes. It's so bad. So finally I just ordered like a pack of masks.
Sure.
I had a bandana around my face for a while. I just did.
Nice.
Yeah.
What we do for food love here.
Yeah, exactly. I want that jalapeno on there.
So,
it's good.
We're going to make this happen.
Yeah.
So how did you, tell me about the packaging and stuff like that. Was that more difficult or was that pretty easy?
It's still difficult. I'm still struggling with it.
Because I imagine there's rules you have to deal with in that regard.
Yeah, but that's pretty easy. Like there's a lot of food packaging out there.
Okay.
That that is accessible, but it's more about finding the right fit for my product.
Okay.
So I started with like these clear plastic bags that we could heat seal and just put the sticker on.
Sure.
And they're like not the best looking bags. They were fine. You could see the product, which I really like because I feel like people could see that it's like a whole potato chip instead of a bag of smashed, smashed potatoes or whatever.
Here's your crumbs.
But it wasn't the best looking. And so I was like, I've been trying to find another package. So we moved to this like white package that has like a liner in it and the window. So you could still see it, but maybe it's a little bit cleaner looking.
Right.
Well, I spent $1,300 on new packaging and it's got a liner in it. Well, the oil from the chips still leaked out the bottom of the bags.
Oh, no.
So Willie Street Co-op called me and they said... So I have like 41 bags of chips with grease stains, and I'm like, I had seen them the day before at a bar that I sell to, and I was like, is this what they all look like? And they're like, no, just a few of them. And then the next morning I got that email from the co-op, and I'm like in tears, like, I just spent so much money on this packaging, and now it's not working. So now we're using the old bag inside of that bag.
Okay.
Until I find a different bag. So I've got this guy at this local store over off Fish Hatchery Road.
Sure.
Who's trying to find me a bag that it won't leak out of the bottom.
Wow.
I've like looked into getting packaging that's printed like a normal potato chip bag.
Sure.
I do like the differentiation with this bag though. Like it's not a normal potato chip bag, but I have looked into it and the problem is the quantities that you have to purchase in pre-printed bags like that is very cost prohibitive.
Right.
I'd have to buy, I think it's like a $22,000 investment to be able to buy bags for all the flavors of chips that I have.
That's a lot of chips to sell.
That's a lot of chips. Like, and someone came to me once and he's like, I invest in small food businesses and I still have him in the back of my head. He's like, you can pay me back. It's a very low interest rate. And, I thought about it. I'm like, but $22,000, like, I'm just not at that level yet,
Right.
Like, my total gross sales last year was like $37,000 for the chips alone. So what am I going to do? Spend more than half on new bags?
Right.
So I'm still going to go with these.
Sure.
Maybe in a few years. My goal is to get in 10 more stores this year. 10 more stores or businesses this year.
Okay.
And then maybe at that point I can.
All right.
Look at some.
It makes sense to invest.
Yeah, exactly.
I mentioned you had to figure out the how much to put in each bag, and then the size, I imagine, for store shelf. That had to be a thing, right?
Yep. So, well, I started with that 2.5 ounce. I don't really know how that happened. I guess the bag that I ordered, it seemed that would fit in. Mm-hmm. But I have a large size, and I started with 10 ounce. And then the bags we got, we'd had to cut down with like, a school paper cutter. And we had to like measure each one out.
Sure.
So this bag that I got fit the 2.5 ounces perfectly. But the larger bag, we went from 10 ounce to 8 ounce.
Okay.
Which is a pretty common chip size bag anyways. Like,
sure.
I shop around and I try other chips when I'm out, or I see a new brand, or
sure.
I eat more potato chips now than I probably ever did in my like the last couple of
testing.
years. Yeah, it is. Yeah, that is a problem though. I snack on potato chips for a living.
Sure.
But 8 ounces is a pretty common size. I think like Kettle and those different brands make an 8 ounce size.
Okay.
My chips are still a little pricier than those brands, but I also think that you'll like them better.
Sure, they're better.
Maybe they're just different. I don't know. I've had people when I'm sampling at the grocery store say, "Oh, these aren't salty enough," because mine aren't as salty as like a Frito-Lay, the plain sea salt one isn't. And that's just, because we grind it on with the sea salt grinder, like by hand. So it's not like it's going through this big equipment and it's getting...
Sure.
And that same thing with the flavors. I like shake it on with the shaker with my hand.
Sure.
So it's not going to be an even distribution, and but I do my best.
Right.
To make, every chip have some of that flavor, every chip have salt.
Plus it's handmade essentially, right?
Yeah.
So how much more authentic can you
it
get?
is. It's packaged by hand. We put the stickers on the bags with our hands. Like everything is...
Hand
by
cut.
hand. Yep.
Outside of being hand picked from the potatoes from the ground, right?
They've got some big fancy equipment at my farm. It is definitely not hand picked.
You gotta bring up machines in there somewhere. That's awesome. So you, what else did you have going on? You had the catering. You have the food cart. You have the chips.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about Beyond Catering, because that is not Slide Catering, right? It's Beyond Catering.
Well, it started out as Slide Food Cart and Catering.
Okay.
But then I started going beyond the sliders. So, like, we do
Beyond.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So that's how that name came about. So it's still Slide Food Cart and Beyond Catering.
Gotcha.
Just because we do so many other things also. Like, we can do lasagna, or we'll
nice.
do, like, we've done a big backyard grill out party where we'll come with everything, and I'll have the brats boiling and the beer next to the grill, and we'll grill the brats for you, and we'll grill the burgers. And
very cool.
We do breakfast burritos for catering, and at some of the events we even do tacos and burritos. So
nice.
Lots of variety, lots of fun.
Sure.
So I felt like I had to get away from the name Slide a little bit.
Gotcha.
Obviously I had to leave the chip name. It's like a brand I built with my food cart, and people already knew them.
Sure. It's recognizable.
Not very many people, but enough people that I think it was worth it.
Right.
I mean, what is Frito-Lay anyways? You know what I mean? Why does that make more sense than Slide? It doesn't. You just are familiar with it.
I don't. No.
So.
Right.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So is it a challenge to get into or get your name out there? Or what have you done for marketing since you started?
I think it's been primarily word of mouth, and like doing a million events that may or may not have been lucrative. Okay. But new people found out who I was.
Gotcha. Still got the name out there.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have like one major catering account that we'd go to at least once a month. And it was because I was at this event out at the curling club in McFarland, and this guy fell in love with my food, and he worked for this company, and now they have 200 people that are employed there. And so now we go at least once a month and cater for all 200 people.
Oh, that's
But it's
awesome.
all because this guy found me at the event at the curling club. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So like whether or not that event was necessarily like worth my time that day, I don't necessarily remember if it was. I'm just saying, like, even if it wasn't, like getting that account from that event then made it worth it.
Gotcha. Okay.
But so now I feel like that was like my first 3 years that I was like, I'll just do whatever and go wherever. Mm-hmm. But now I've kind of reeled it in a little bit, and I say no more.
Sure.
And I like the cart now is really for advertising, I think, for the catering and stuff.
Sure.
Which I guess before the cart was the business, but now the cart is the advertisement.
Gotcha. Okay.
Is that crazy?
No, not at all.
Yeah. So that's the reason I will continue to go to the Capitol Square.
Sure.
I said there's a lot of carts. There's more carts downtown than there used to be.
Okay.
And so business has definitely slowed down in the past few years, not just for me, for everyone.
Sure.
Just sales dollars wise on a normal day on the square is not what it was 3 years ago.
Really?
Oh, yeah, no. I mean, there's more spots for food carts. There are more food carts. There's so many more restaurants. it's just like a thing. So that's why you have to pick what you're going to do. And so having my car downtown has got me catering business downtown.
Gotcha.
And so,
all right.
we cater to some of the offices down there.
So it's almost advertising there.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And I feel like that's how people have found me for their kids' graduation parties.
Sure.
Same thing when we go out to the schools for the fundraisers. People find me there, and then it in turn turns into other business.
So you're throwing a business card in with every sale.
Yeah. Well, I'm not, but I should. Sometimes they have stickers on the boxes, if I have them, I put them on there. But
Sure. Interesting.
Yeah.
So I always like to ask people that have employees, how hard has it been to deal with employees? Has it been pretty simple, or to find them, or to train them?
I think it was a challenge in the beginning because I had a couple friends who were helping me that ended up being like my employees that I paid to help me.
Sure.
That were my friends, this was not their job.
Sure.
It was just like, I have some money. Can you come and help me? So it kind of got me to know, and then they in turn helped me find employees that weren't my friends.
Okay.
Like through Craigslist, I think is the main.
Sure.
And then it turned into like, oh, my friend needs a job and my friend needs a job. And so like for better or for worse, that's really been a benefit. Like my 2 employees now are best friends.
Oh, nice.
And so I found her, well, I didn't really find her. One of my friends found her on Craigslist.
Sure.
Hired her, and then her best friend needed a job, so he came and he works for me now. So that's Tony,
nice.
Yeah,
The potato guy.
The potato guy, yeah. So that's worked out well. And then in some other cases, it's been like, oh, my friend is great, and he's gonna come and work, and then he's not that great, and then they, But
so there's some fallout there.
Yeah, but they're accountable to it. I feel like, and I've had really great employees.
That's
I've had
awesome.
really great employees. I've been really lucky. Yeah. It's a challenging business, and there are things that happen. They will pull the food cart and then they will get the flat tire on,
Oh, sure.
And so like there's different interesting challenges that can be very frustrating. And I always feel bad because I know it can be a stressful job. Mm-hmm. And so I try and minimize their stress as an employee just because I feel like, okay, I know and I do pay my employees well. I like to say I like to pay them close to, if not a living wage.
Sure.
I'm not just paying a minimum wage.
Right.
And so just like the different challenges that come with it, I can't get the propane to work. I can't get the steam table on, and we're supposed to start service in 7 minutes, like different things. And it's like so stressful because then there's 20 people staring at you, like waiting for you to be ready. So I get it. Like it's this different like level of stress. Mm-hmm. So I try and minimize their stress, but it can be stressful. But most of them can handle it, and if they can't, then we figure that out, and they can do something else maybe.
Right.
Or it's just not for them,
Just join Tony.
But it is so much fun. Like you're outside half the time, you know what I mean?
Sure.
And on beautiful summer days, and you're at festivals, and you're listening to live music, and like it's so much fun.
I volunteered at a few beer stations, I guess, for whatever, at different events, and I have way more fun being behind the table instead of standing in line to be at the table.
I know. I'm the same way. I totally agree.
So even if you're sticky, I didn't even know beer was sticky, but after you splash it around enough, it becomes sticky.
Yeah.
I'm like, I was having a blast, and it's a good time, right?
Yeah.
And you're having fun with the customers, interacting with them and all this jazz.
Right.
It's good times, right? So time goes so fast.
It does. It does go very fast. When it's slow, it's hard. I feel like that is when it's hard, and you're like, oh.
Then you're having a carnival bark with people that won't make eye contact.
I don't prefer carnival barking. I don't.
This man looks like he needs a slide.
Yeah, come on. Oh, you need that cheese stuffed meatball right now, I think.
The bun is talking to me.
Yeah, it does. Or it's like then you get the employees when it's not busy staring at their phone, and you're like, okay.
Oh, no.
I get it, but also no.
Sure, right?
You know what I mean? If it's slow at McDonald's, you're not going to be on your phone.
No.
And I know I'm not a corporate job, and nor do I want to be a corporate job. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to quit my corporate job, because I wanted to be a different kind of employer.
Right.
But still, there has to be some standards.
Yes.
Customers
can see that.
Yeah, exactly.
So tell me, do you have any regrets at all in regards to starting this business or anything like that?
No, mistakes, yes, but no regrets.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Mistakes, fair. Totally fair.
Yeah.
What's been some of the biggest mistakes that you've had to deal with?
Making some investments that I shouldn't have invested in. I've done a couple festivals and lost some big bucks on some festivals because I thought that they would be good, and then they weren't.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
And then I tried to do a little sandwich station and a gas station for a little while.
Oh, really?
And it wasn't the right demographic for my food at all, and I lost a bunch of money doing that.
Oh, no.
And I'm still getting caught up on some taxes for that. So,
sure.
like, definitely some, I think I'm ready to do this or expand or do, and then I'm like, I just lost $6,000.
Yeah, but, yeah.
So I definitely feel like I've reeled it in. I've got one cart. I'm doing the festivals that I know and are tried and true, and I'm trying to sell my potato chips.
Sure.
And catering.
Mm-hmm.
So
you
experimenting. I've experimented a lot.
I tell people, man, you either succeed or you learn.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, man, I have learned a lot. I can tell I have learned a lot.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So if someone were to come to you and say, hey, I'm interested in starting a food cart, what are the top 3 things that you tell them?
Don't do it. No, I'm just kidding.
The honesty right here.
I think, like, knowing that your product is unique.
Okay.
And that's going to be really hard in Madison since there are 100 food carts.
Sure.
So how is your product going to be neat? And also knowing that for your first 2 to 3 years that you better have a big savings.
Okay.
Or a partner that is going to pay your rent for you at home.
Gotcha. Okay.
Because you won't bring income in for the first few years.
Gotcha.
You will sell stuff and you will pay your bills.
Sure.
But you're not going to get to take anything home. Like, realistically, maybe $50 here or there.
Sure. It's a big day.
So being unique, being prepared to be broke for a while in your like personal life. And then
we can call it 2.
I mean, those are 2 major ones,
Or if the first one is don't do it, and then if not one, then go to 2 or 3.
Okay, I didn't really mean that, I don't think, but...
That's awesome.
There's new food carts starting all the time. I had someone coming into my kitchen today that's going to open a Peruvian food cart, and he's looking for a kitchen.
Oh, nice.
And that's great. And, there's barely any Peruvian food in this area.
Sure.
So it sounds good, but just no, it's hard.
Yeah. So really quick, you also had the kitchen. Was it Christine's kitchen?
Yep, Christine's kitchen. Actually,
Are you full?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
I have open commercial kitchen space, and I try and be really reasonable because I understand how expensive it is to run a small business. So it's like $10 an hour or $650 to $750 a month, depending on your usage.
So they can just go to their website or go to your website?
The Slide Wisco site has the Christine's Kitchen info on it.
Gotcha.
We are also hosting an open house on Saturday at the kitchen for people to come.
Wait, I think I knew about that. There's other carts there, right?
Yeah, there's like 4 other carts and like 4 other food producers. So the bread guy and the dessert guy, and then cassoulet. They do these frozen dinners that you can take home and pop in the oven for your family, 2, 4, 6 people.
Sure. So if you're listening to this Sunday, that was yesterday, you missed it.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It's the 24th.
But this, well then, we're cool. Because this,
Yeah.
Wednesday, you're all good. You get your weekend figured out. Sunday, sorry
11 to 3, 2817 East Wash.
What is that across the street from?
Ella's Deli.
Can't miss it.
Yeah.
The big building with a carousel for sale.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, it's for sale.
So are you guys just be in that parking lot there?
No, and people come in the kitchen.
Oh, really?
You can come and check out the shared kitchen and like see where the action happens.
That is awesome.
And everyone who is in that kitchen will be doing sampling of their food products and selling their food products.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
So Slide Chips will be there.
Yes.
Yay!
Slide chips, slide meatballs. I'm actually working on some seasoning packets so you can make my chip dips at home. Oh, that's my next step because I have 5 kind of dips. So I'm going to see if I can recreate that. Yeah.
Always growing. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, Christine, thank you very much. This is a blast.
It's been a lot of fun.
I could talk to you about business for hours. Maybe it's just because it has something to do with food. I love it. So this has been Authentic Business Adventures, the business program that brings you the struggles, stories, and triumphant successes of business owners across the land, including those of the food cart variety. We're coming to you from the Sun Prairie Community Studios, underwritten by Bank of Sun Prairie. My name is James Kateman, business coach at Draw and Customers Business Coaching and author of the Bold Business Book. We'd like to thank you, our wonderful listeners, and our guest, Christine Ameigh of Slide Food Cart, Slide Chips, Beyond Catering, and Christine's Kitchen. Find us airing on 103.5 Wednesdays at 6 p.m. and Sundays at 2 p.m. as well as at the sunprairiemediacenter.com. We can also be found morning, noon, and night at the podcast link on drawincustomers.com. Thank you for listening, and we will see you next week. Stay awesome and enjoy the process.